All right, so I call this meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. Are there any additions or subtractions to the agenda? Phoebe,
Can we strike TJF for this week?
Josh,
Could we please strike capital contingency, please?
Alicia,
Can we please strike ARC allocations, please?
Juan,
Can we please strike SFS?
and Naomi. I thought I seen your hand. Probably was a mistake. Oh, Alicia?
I'm just Danny's trying to get in, but she can't join as a panelist.
Okay. Milan, do you see her in attendees?
Yeah, I'm promoting her right now.
All right, awesome. Okay. Daniela, do you have anything you want to add or subtract to the agenda?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, if no one else has anything that they want to add or subtract, can we get a motion to approve?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, Phoebe motions, Alicia seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. Right. Okay, and by a vote of 10 to 0, the motion passes and the agenda for this week is approved. Actually, I just made a mistake because we were supposed to add something, the talk about the ASU-CLA board director's appointment, but that discussion is going to be like, we're going to close like that part off to the public because it's going to be a discussion revolving like personal protective information. So Jessica, how do we do that?
So are you wanting to go into executive session?
Yes.
Okay, so you basically need an agenda item for executive session, and you can put it in your new business if you like. And when you're ready to go into executive session, you'll need to have a motion and a vote to enter executive session. And we can chat more about the additional details when we get there. But yeah, if you need executive session on your agenda, then someone can motion to add it right now, if you want to do that.
Okay.
And it needs to be an action item, just FYI, because you do need a motion and a vote. So it would be motioning to add executive session as an action item on your agenda under new business.
Okay, awesome. All right. I know I mean, most council members kind of know what I'm referring to. So if you kind of attended that meeting, if you want to make that motion, that'd be awesome.
I move to add executive session as an action item on the agenda.
Can we get a second?
I second.
All right, Phoebe motions, Naomi seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. And okay, okay, yeah, there we go. Wait. And by a vote of 10 to 0, the motion passes. And we just added an executive session. Okay, so now going forward, I hope everyone got a chance to review the minutes from last week. Are there any changes anyone wants to make from the minutes from last week? One, I see you have a hand raised. Is that old?
Yes, so sorry.
All right, if no one has any changes to the minutes from last week, can we get a motion to approve them?
I move to approve last week's minutes.
To approve last week's meeting minutes.
Danielle, I think yours is that my Wi-Fi or?
I have no idea. My bad.
Hey,
I'm having issues.
okay, so I think who's that motioned? Was that Phoebe? I think Phoebe motioned and Daniela seconded, correct?
I feel like I didn't motion. I think did Naomi, did you motion?
I second it, but I don't know who motioned.
Okay, we'll say Daniela. Okay, Daniela motioned and Naomi seconded. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, by a vote of 10-0, the motion passes and last week's minutes are approved. All right, now is the time to open up public comment. Public comment is a time for individuals from the Undergraduate Student Association to come and give comment on any questions or concerns or anything they have regarding any issues or topics on campus. So if you want to be promoted for public comment, please raise your hand. I see Clara.
Awesome. Hi, guys. I'm Clara, CalPERS Chapter Chair, ECLA, just here to give a quick update on what we're doing right now. So last week we launched all of our campaigns with our biggest meeting of the quarter, and 88 students were there. And the Student PERS actually has chapters across the country in 26 different states. And of all the chapters nationwide, the UCLA kickoff meeting was the biggest. So woo! And this was a really successful end to our recruitment drive, and we're really excited to get into all of our campaigns with all of our new volunteers. And also over the weekend, we hosted a beach cleanup at Venice Beach to raise awareness for plastic pollution and call on LA City Council to ban styrofoam. And we had 20 UCLA students volunteering. We found over 1,000 pieces of styrofoam on the beach, and also our cleanup was covered on the news by ABC7. And this week we're going to be running events for all of our campaigns. So today we did a fundraising event with our basic needs campaign to raise money for the LA Food Bank, and we raised over $200. We're also going to be doing a voter registration table with our new voters project, and our plastics campaign is going to be collecting photo petitions from students and also going to Westwood to get the support from local small businesses for our plastics campaign. And next week we're going to be officially kicking off our pledge fundraising drive, where we're going to be all over campus, individually signing up 1,100 students to opt into our $10 CalPERS activity fee and become pledging members. And this gives us the political power, staff training, and resources to win all of our big campaigns. So that's a little bit about what we're up to right now. Thank you guys for listening, and hope you have a great rest of your meeting.
Awesome, thank you so much. Glad to see you coming through every week. Do we have any other individuals that want to speak for public comment? Going once, going twice. All right, I'll be closing public comment at 7:14. Devon, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, sorry. Can I make a motion to amend the agenda so I can strike bag? Sorry, I was late. I was having Wi-Fi issues.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
I move, or do I would have to say it, right?
Yeah, you got, yeah.
Or is everyone okay with that? Sorry. Okay. I move to amend the October 11th or today's agenda. And then would I have to make a separate motion
I think you just do it all at once.
Okay. And the amendment would be to strike bag allocations for this week, please. And sorry.
All right, can we get a second?
I second.
Okay, Divine motions, Naomi seconds, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, by a vote of 11 to 0 to, oh, sorry, 12 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and bag is struck from the agenda. Okay, now moving forward. So next up, we have funding, capital contingency. Josh, the floor is yours.
Hey, everybody. I believe, let me just double check the agenda. I had asked earlier for capital contingency to be struck from the agenda, but I'm not sure if it was heard. But I can dive into contingency programming if that's okay.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I do remember you saying that. Yeah, so contingency programming. Sorry.
Perfect. Great. Sounds good. So this week we actually had a record amount of people applying for our contingency fund. The most we've actually ever had in one specific week in the history of our specific committee. The finance committee has done an amazing job of just getting the word out across campus and giving enough students the opportunity to apply. Our office is currently trying to figure out ways where we are seeing a lot of the same groups applying over and over, and trying to give equal access of opportunity for just every group applying. So we're figuring out that, but with that being said, we had a requested amount of $29,554.81 this week. And we recommend an allocation of $15,926.64, which is also one of our highest recommended allocations ever. And I'm happy to put that in the chat right now as well.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot right there. Jesus. All right. Who you say requested? Who requested that amount? Man. All right. Does anyone have any questions regarding contingency programming? All right, if not, can we get a motion?
I move to approve the contingency programming for this week.
Can we get a second?
I second.
Eliana motions, Naomi seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, and by a vote of 12 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and contingency programming is approved for this week. All right, next up is Anna's SWC programming fund allocations.
Hi all. So this week the SWC programming fund allocated $0 to 0 SWC groups and $80.54 to non-SWC groups. What do we need a motion for this?
It's a consent item. So
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no one has any questions, concerns, or comments, we move forward. All right, next up is ASRF allocations. Daniela.
Hi, let me put it in the chat as well, but I'm gonna do ASRF and TGMF in one go this week as well. So both fund groups got the same allocations granted this week, $2,000 to both, and each of them were distributed across 2 non-USAC entities.
Awesome. Okay, those both are also consent items. So if no one has any questions, concerns, or comments, then they are both approved. All right, awesome. Moving forward. All right, tonight we have a special presentation. One is for ASU Slate Board of Directors by Glenn. Has Glenn been promoted yet? I think it's Haley Glenn.
The person that reached out to me, but maybe I think the ASUCLA representatives are here. So if the ASUCLA representatives could raise their hands, I can promote them. That would be very helpful.
It says, yeah, Woody and Jazz. Okay, yeah, we can promote those too. Whenever Woody and Jazz are promoted, the floor is yours.
Good evening, y'all.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Good to have you.
Okay, I'm gonna try to share screen. Let's see. Oop, okay, I don't think I can share screen.
Okay, try it now. I just changed it.
Okay, for sure. Yes, 1 second. Okay. Does everyone see that? Does it work? Yeah? Okay, cool. Hi everyone, I'm Udia Kamara. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm a 4th year here and I'm one of the 4 undergraduate student representatives on the board. It's my 2nd year on the board and I'm currently serving as the chair of the board as well. Jazz, you want to do an intro before we can get into it?
Yeah, sure. Hey folks, my name is Jazz. I'm a PhD student in the School of Education. And so I've actually been around UCLA for quite some time. I did my undergrad some years ago as well. So I think the last time I've been in a USAC meeting was more than 6 years ago. So it's been a trip, but it's kind of cool to see how you've all been able to migrate to Zoom. I'm one of the graduate student members on the ASUCLA Board of Directors, and really get the lovely opportunity to work with Woodia. Woodia said that she's chairing the board currently, and I get to deputize as the vice chair of the board as of right now.
Cool. So we're here today to present to you all. It's great to see like some familiar faces as well. But I would say the main reason for this presentation is to give you all more of like a formal introduction to what ASUCLA is. I assume that you all obviously have like an idea of like what ASUCLA is, but we just want to like inform you more and see how best like we can leverage partnerships going forward. Because I know quite a few of you have already. So I think it'd be really nice to just stay informed about the Associated Students UCLA. So to start off, what is ASUCLA? As I mentioned, you all are quite familiar with like Associated Students across UC in its entirety, but ASUCLA is very unique in a sense, not only for UCs, but I would say universities as a whole in the country, because we are a student-led nonprofit, heavy and nonprofit part of it. And because of that, we also have like a student majority board of directors, which is very unusual for a nonprofit organization. But ever since ASUCLA started in 1919, the goal was to complement academic life here at UCLA. And that's what we've been doing. That's what has been done for all years so far. And some of the things we do to kind of like make sure that's working well are lots and lots of services that we provide to the campus space as a nonprofit organization that's led by students in the majority. And in addition to services, I think it's also important to mention that we embody the model of like students providing for students by students. And with that, we are the largest student employer on campus as well. Definitely, we do have lots of divisions that kind of like work to create this whole framework of like a nonprofit, as well as like a very student-oriented organization. And we will go into more of them later. So I don't want to like just like list all of them now because we're going to say them again. And I don't want this to feel like very repeated. But this infographic, I think, puts into perspective like what ASUCLA is as a whole. So obviously you all are familiar with USAC. So we can think about ASUCLA as like this umbrella, and then it's made up of like 4 entities. So USAC, GSA, and then student media. So that would count for things like Daily Brew and all publications and whatnot. And then finally, we have Student One Enterprises, which I'm pretty sure all of you are familiar with. So the student union, food service, retail operations, services of licensing, admin, and support. And we're going to go more into like detail on like what all of these entail. Again, I think you all are very familiar with these, but maybe did not quite picture like where they kind of tie into ASUCLA.
And just to go off of how Woody is explaining a bit about the structure, y'all might be kind of familiar because of the nature in which you have provided appointments to the board. Woodia being one of the current undergraduate reps. We have Megan as well as Julia as other undergraduate reps. But here on the screen, you'll see that it's more than just undergraduate students who make up the board of directors. And that's kind of also why I wanted to introduce myself to you all today. So in total, there are 8 student board positions. 4 of those are undergraduate students. 4 of those are graduate or professional students who are appointed by GSA. We have a faculty representative from the Academic Senate, 2 administrative representatives who are appointed by the Chancellor, and then the Alumni Association appoints 2 individuals as well. And y'all have probably interacted with him before, but if you're not familiar, Poria Abbasi is the Executive Director and CEO of ASU-CLA. And by nature of being the Executive Director, he sits as ex officio on the board. But as you can tell, student majority board, but has representation from basically every constituency group on campus. And we'll go a bit into the business model. Woody is going to lead us off into diving deep into some of these areas. But basically, the main point I want to share with you all is that there are a lot of moving pieces to ASU-CLA. When we think about ASU-CLA or even the student union, we often think of just Ackerman Union, the building, and just what's inside of that. But there's so much more that encompasses what ASU-CLA is. And we'll talk a bit more about each one of those pieces. But I guess the main point I want to convey here is that all of us as students, we're members of this association. ASU-CLA, is by name is called Associated Students, and by all of us as students, we're members of this. And in many ways, we're folks who are invested in the success of our student union because we actually pay a membership fee of some sort. We, as part of our billing statement, every academic quarter, we have a student union fee. And so all of us inherently are invested in the student union.
Definitely. So kind of like looking at I would say the moving parts that make up the business model, we can start with like the retail operations. And it's, I think it's pertinent to note that all of the business models that were in that chat are basically things that bring in revenue to the organization. So first, retail operations, which is one of our largest. So you can see that in like all 6 locations that we have on campus. It's mainly the UCLA store in like Laval, Health Sciences, Hilltop, North Campus, South Campus, and mainly Ackerman Union because that's the main store. And I think it's, while talking about Ackerman, it's also like really great to mention that starting this school year, we actually now accept EBT or CalFresh cards to be used at the food market in Ackerman, which is like a big win for the board and something that we've been very excited about because it's going to bridge a lot of like accessibility gaps. And it's been something that's been in the works for like so many years, so many other boards that have passed before. So that's something that's really, really great that we're doing right now, at least in one of the UCLA store locations. I know Jazz, if you want to like add on to like that specific.
Oh yeah. Thanks, Woodia. Yeah, I think at the beginning when I introduced myself, I kind of mentioned that I've been around UCLA for a while, and this big accomplishment of being able to accept CalFresh at the UCLA store on campus, like I don't think we should take that lightly. Like that's such a big win, and students have been looking for ways to initiate that for many years. I remember back in 2016, when I was finishing up my undergrad, that was something that I personally mentioned to ASU-CLA as a step that we should take to open accessibility, especially for low-income students and maybe students with families to be able to, feel like they can utilize their benefits on campus. And unfortunately, back then, it just wasn't. It wasn't taken as a priority. And so I think many years later, even for me to be sitting in this position now, to finally see it come to culmination in partnership with a lot of very important stakeholders on campus, like the Basic Needs Committee, the CalFresh initiative as part of the Community Programs Office, really trying to make this come together. It's a big win, y'all. And hopefully for those of you who do have EBT benefits through CalFresh, you see this as a way to utilize the student union a bit more, and hopefully it's a little bit more accessible because of this. So I just wanted to make that point. Thanks, Woodia.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. So just adding on to UCLA store retail. So like, of course, we have it like, brick and mortar. So then we would have like the alternate like online version, UCLA stores that we have with them. And then lastly, for retail ops, event sales. So this is basically athletics, I would say. So that would involve things like tailgating, like everything that you would see like concession stands at Poly when you go to a game. They're selling like foods and stuff. All of that would have to be on the retail because we do generate revenue from there as well, and we consider them our event sales.
The next area that we want to talk about is trademarks and licensing. And you're probably wondering, what the heck does that even mean? As you probably know in your leadership positions, UCLA, the brand, is a trademark of in itself. So the university doesn't just allow people to spit out the brand anywhere else. Like there's a lot of legal implications because of it. And so many years ago, many decades ago, the university came up with an agreement with ASUCLA to delegate the role of licensing in terms of the brand for especially apparel purposes, that became the domain of ASUCLA. So all of the gear, the swag that has UCLA on it, things that you buy from the UCLA store, things that you buy at the Rose Bowl maybe, or even at Poly Pavilion, all of that actually is overseen by ASUCLA. So Woody, if you don't mind going to the next slide. And so like just even thinking like the sweater that you might have on tonight, I don't see what folks are wearing. But like if you bought a UCLA sweater, for instance, that was a part of a licensing process that ASUCLA actually led and continues to be stewards of, caretakers of. On screen here, you'll see a bunch of different retailers. All of these are partners of ASUCLA because ASUCLA has entered a licensing agreement with them for them to be able to sell UCLA gear. And I think this is really important to recognize because we know that UCLA as a brand has, global influence. There's a lot of people who know about UCLA, maybe not for, everything that we're involved in, but that UCLA, top school, blah, blah, blah. But ASUCLA, us, the associated students, we're part of that stewarding of making sure that that branding goes out there. And I think a big part of this responsibility also goes down to when we think about apparel and the production of clothing, we as ASUCLA, we care about sustainability, we care about human rights. And so a big part of what our trademarks and licensing team does is coordinate holding our licensees accountable to some pretty high standards. And I share this because I don't think any other university has those same standards that we set. Of course, there's a lot more work that can always be done on a year-to-year basis. But this kind of priority was something that we, as the ASUCLA board, voted on to get ASUCLA to care about these things. So this is one of those aspects of the business that is you would think is kind of ubiquitous for any college campus. Licensing gear with the university name on it, but it runs a lot deeper at a place here like ASUCLA. Next slide, Woodia. And so it's just some stats on the screen here. This was produced by our trademarks and licensing management team. But it's global reach here. And I don't take this lightly because I think there's a lot of politics, in how we handle, a lot of issues related to apparel and producing garments. But I think this is where we try to take a leg up, and we try to do a lot more than other universities here when we license something, that we hold our licensees accountable. So that's just some stats on screen. I'm not going to go through them since I know we are limited on time. Why don't we go to the next part?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, also, I just want to mention that I can see like the chat popping up, but I can't really like access them because I'm sharing screen. So I don't know, like, Jazz, if you want to take a look at that. But we would definitely get into questions at the end for sure. So next part of that is the student union. So student union, I feel like you all would be the most familiar with. So student union services division kind of supports like student union operations, which are mainly in Ackerman, like everything that has to do like the store, not the store, but like the building in itself, like the y'all's offices and things like that, Kirkhoff, essentially. Event services, student government services, those are things that have to like come from you all as well, that you all organize. Event services would be things like, like the Wellness Wednesdays, other things that I know you all do a collab with Patty, I think from CEC or CAC as well. Strategic funding would be something like, SOUL, things that go towards like student organizations on campus, and just other funding that people can get access to, like apply from ASUC account in general. And then so other aspects again of student union operations would be, like I mentioned, building operations, student union spaces, ASUCLA post office, summer in the union. So basically everything that you get access to in Kharkov as a student, as like a student service, I would say. But yeah, that pretty much I would say sums it up for student union operations, and we can go to restaurants.
I mean, a big part of, I think, how most students engage with ASUCLA is eating on campus. I remember when I was on campus more often, it would involve, stopping by Ackerman Union or going to Kirkhoff or even the bomb shelter. Probably don't even realize it, but all those areas are ASUCLA operated. Woody, why don't you go to the next slide? And so here's a slide with really a long list of some of these food operations that ASUCLA either oversees or self-operates, or partners with some third-party folks. I'd imagine many of you have utilized or have eaten at some of these spots on campus. Not sure if you knew back then that all of that is actually tied to ASUCLA. And so, for instance, we have 3 categories. We have self-operated businesses. So something like Kirkhoff Coffee House, for instance, that's all ASUCLA in-house. ASUCLA employees are the ones who staff it. Anderson Cafe is a really cool one because for many years, ASUCLA did not have a footprint over at Anderson. And when some of the third-party folks over there decided not to continue, we were able to then expand over there. And so Anderson Cafe, where we now, I believe that's the only place on campus where Starbucks coffee is served, which I guess some folks actually really cared about that. That was an expansion, and that's our student union, putting in work for that. Second category, is franchises and licensees. And so Taco Bell, for instance, that's not actually, Taco Bell third party. Those are ASUCLA student workers working at Taco Bell. And that's because ASUCLA purchased a franchise agreement with Taco Bell for the past 30 something years to be able to operate that. Lolly Cup is a really cool one. And that was with direct input from students, because back in, I believe 2014 or 2015, there was no boba on campus, and or at least no relatively decent boba on campus. Students said we want to have a spot, and so that was one of those things that the board, with input from the student body, was able to then get a partnership with Lolly Cup so that ASUCLA can operate a Lolly Cup franchise. So that was a big deal back then. And then a bunch of third-party operations, and what that means is, there are other folks who then want to rent the space that we have, whether it's Ackerman Union or Bomb Shelter, so that they can operate and provide food services there. I think the exciting one for this year is Epicuria at Ackerman. And that's a big one because first time that we have a food service in the middle of campus that accepts swipes. I know that was something that students as far back as 2012 were wanting to have, because going back to the Hill is sometimes inconvenient for those who are on a meal plan. So that was a partnership with UCLA Housing to bring that into Ackerman that we felt like made sense. Woody, do you have any commentary you want to share for this? I know you spend a lot more time in these places than I do these days.
Yeah, definitely. I think Epicura is like one of those things that we're very excited to have this school year for students as well. Just to like kind of like bridge that gap of like, not having to like go back to the Hill to eat, for example. And I was actually there, I think 2 weeks ago. And I think it was really nice just to be there and see like how students can like have like a dining experience in Ackerman. Obviously, not a lot of things are perfect, and that's where we can always like get like students' inputs, like, hey, what's working, what's not working well, how could this service be better? But so far, I think it's been really great to see to have that there, an extension of like UCLA dining in Ackerman.
And beyond that, ASUCLA also has a presence for special events. So I'll start with the stuff at the bottom. And in more recent years, ASUCLA has been able to have a presence in UCLA athletics events. So, some of the concessions at Poly Pavilion, and even some of the stuff that we do at the Rose Bowl now, that's ASUCLA operated. When beforehand, it was through UCLA auxiliary kind of operations. And so those operations would not actually go back to the students. The revenue generated from back then would not go back to the students. And now we have much more of a presence in some of these areas. And by generating revenue and doing catering or food at these special events, we're able to bring in revenue back into ASUCLA when it would have went out elsewhere. Just some photos from seeing that. I think even just might have been today or yesterday that there was an announcement of now beer and wine is being served in Poly Pavilion. Like that's really cool, and this is all part of, I think, being strategic about thinking about serving and creating good times in places on campus, especially with athletics being such a moneymaker for the university. How can ASUCLA also be a beneficiary and partner of that? And a few other new things, especially during this period of COVID, where food operations outside of the university, nationally, everything just flipped on its head. Y'all probably started noticing these little robots running around campus, hopefully not causing accidents. But that was something that ASUCLA brought in, I think, around 2020, mid 2020, as a partnership with a Starship delivery company, just to be able to make food service a little bit more accessible if folks wanted delivery on campus. I personally have not tried it yet, but I know a lot of folks have tried it, and it's kind of trippy to see these robots just all around campus. I think most of you weren't around back then, but maybe some of the staff or administrative reps in this space remember. But Jamba Juice used to have a big location in Ackerman Union, and it was a pretty poppin' spot for many years. There would be, events from time to time called Club Jamba. Unfortunately, Jamba Juice was unable to come up with a future agreement to stay in that space with ASUCLA. But then the alternative was to create this mobile kiosk where it's basically like a robotic arm that produces these smoothies now. But this was a way that we weren't able to, so that we prevented ourselves from losing Jamba completely on campus. And I think the last point that I'll make, especially because of COVID, a lot of students were struggling to get food during this time. I know in particular, graduate students and parenting students who live in like University Apartment South, family housing, a lot of folks were struggling over there. So ASUCLA was fortunate enough to partner with Basic Needs Committee to get some funding and then produce on a pretty regular basis family meals for the folks who lived over there. And I think that's one of those things where, you know, when we think about food service, we think about the operations that we normally frequent in Ackerman Union, but it kind of goes beyond that. We try to get in where we fit in terms of serving folks who need something. And this was one of those examples of, during a period of crisis, how can ASUCLA try to step in, partner with some folks on campus to make something happen and serve folks. And I'm really appreciative of that one in particular.
Okay. So this is the last part that we would talk about. So marketing and sales promotion. So marketing, I would say, yes, it is a division, but it's more sort of like a supporting arm rather than like a significant like arm that just like stays on its own. So marketing would support things like the UCLA store in terms of like, you know, promoting bearware, computers, textbooks, and whatnot. Then that could like go into the form of like the benefits you newsletters that I'm sure we all receive like every other week or so as necessary. They support like the restaurants as well on campus, the student unions, like ASUCLA events. That would also include like, you know, student union events, which are also like organized by you all, partner events as well. And lastly, photography, you know, that would entail athletics, campus events, and the photo archive that it also like oversees. But I would say that's pretty much what marketing does, and they also run all the social media accounts as well that you all might be familiar with. But yeah, and lastly, I think you all saw this in the beginning, and we're just like bringing it back like full circle, like to say that these are all the moving parts. These are all the entities through which we generate revenue for ASUCLA. Some obviously more than others. For example, student union fee would be the least contributing factor in this model. And for you all to like get an idea of like what that looks like, that would look like this in comparison to like all the other UCs. UCLA has the lowest student union fee so far, and I believe this was amended by a referendum back in 2005. But ever since then, we've had this constant.
Yeah, and I think this is a really important slide to.
But I know Jazz can talk more.
Sorry, Woody. Yeah, I think this is a really important slide to kind of finish up on, because one big point is, I think I was mentioning this, all of us as students, we're stakeholders, we're shareholders of the student union because we pay a student union fee. And I think for many years, it almost became like a proud point that ASUCLA was able to flex having the lowest student union fee in the UC system, like essentially by saying, look at all of this that we've been successful in doing while still maintaining a low membership fee. But I think it's also, you know, something that we should be a little bit more critical about. You know, in what ways are you then limited by having the lowest student union fee in the system? Are there other expansions, services, growth just in general that we'd want to see in our student union that just we haven't been able to capitalize on because we don't have you know, that kind of investment? So I'll leave that kind of open-ended question to you all today. You know, what do you all want to see in your student union? If you could just, you know, paint a picture of the ideal student union for you, and maybe some of you who visited other college campuses, you have a reference point. At least for UCLA, what would you want that student union to be? And I think that's where we should start going from here in terms of thinking about services and growth and expansion. And then maybe then you can see, you know, folks like us, Woody and I, as student members of the board, to help advocate for a pathway towards that ideal student union. Yeah, Woody, you want to say anything else? I think that's the last slide that we have, right?
Yeah, that was the last slide. So that's pretty much it. And now I think we can look at the chat and also like have questions from you all. If there are any questions that you all might have, just feel free to like butt in as well.
Just want to say that was amazing. Thank you so much, Rudy and Jazz. Appreciate it.
Of course. And thank you for the explanation of like ex officio member in the chat. That was our bad.
My pleasure. No problem. This big beard. But yeah, great work and always good to see you too.
I had a quick question. Apologies for my voice, but and this might not be directly related to you guys, but I was wondering in terms of the UCLA licensing, one, I kind of saw this in the chat as well, but a lot of the brands listed don't seem to, like H&M and Zara don't really have like sustainable practices. And then a personal question of mine was more like, how does that licensing like process look like? And if you were interested in like getting a brand to get that license, like how would that work?
Woody, you want me to respond?
Yeah, you can go for that one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for that question. And yeah, absolutely. I think when the first time I saw that slide of all of the different clothing companies that we partner with, I had the exact same reaction as you. Like, how can we talk about you know, all of our efforts and thinking about sustainability, human rights, labor, and all that, when I know for sure that some of these companies are a bit questionable. And so that's actually where the licensing process gets pretty nitty gritty. And I know, you know, perhaps maybe someone like Jessica can connect you all with our trademarks and licensing management team. But those folks there, like they work on specific agreements with some of these retailers where the specific article of clothing that's produced with the UCLA brand or the UCLA trademark on it has to abide by X, Y, and Z. And so maybe that doesn't sort out, maybe like everything else H&M and Zara does. But I think for the articles of clothing in which ASUCLA, you know, green lights as a licensing opportunity for a certain retailer, I think there's a pretty meticulous process to go about that. I don't know about it personally, but yeah, I think Jessica put in the chat that Liz Kennedy, Cindy Holmes, these are folks on the ASUCLA trademarks and licensing team that deal with that on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, definitely. And I think to add on, I know Giovanna, you also like asked about like if someone wanted to like, you know, have some kind of partnership, branding partnership with UCLA, how would that work? These folks can also help out with that, but it's also like very accessible in that way, because I don't know if you all remember Command, which is a brand like that was started by a UCLA student. I think it was like a year or two ago. But that was like something that can also be like, that's like an example of what you asked about, Giovanna, like people, literally students like, hey, I have this brand, I think it's good. Can we have like a partnership with TNL, UCLA, connect them with them, and then see how that goes? I know that's one of the ones that we've had so far. That was really successful. So we definitely have opportunities for that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, one last question. You guys mentioned a photo archive. Something that like CEC has been trying to do is kind of like strengthen our archive of like past events. Does that photo archive just include like ASUCLA thing? Like I know we fall under it, but like, do you guys know who that person would be to like kind of get information on that?
That would be, correct me if I'm wrong, Jazz, but that would be Ari on the marketing, right?
Yeah. So Ari Barron, who I'm going to turn to Jessica for possibly making a lot of these connections for you all if you're interested. Yeah, Ari Barron, who's the director of marketing for ASUCLA, I think this is one of his big initiatives. And I don't know how much is in that photo archive. I saw snippets of it, but it goes way back to, you know, black and white photos. So probably if you're searching for stuff, yeah, it doesn't hurt to reach out and maybe they can see if they can find something that you're looking for.
Thank you.
All right, and that's it. Thank you guys so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Definitely learned a lot today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, you all, for having us. And I hope we, you know, all stay in touch and let us know how best we can all like partner up with different things.
Yeah, great to see y'all, folks. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Next up, we have it was a great presentation. Yeah, next up we have a presentation from Teach for America. I see we have Glenn. I think that is Haley Glenn. Yeah, just want to remind you, we got like 10 minutes max for these presentations, and we'll do like a 2 to 3 questions afterwards. Okay, so Haley, you have the floor.
Great, thank you. I will go ahead and share my screen. Can you see that? Or do you see the?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So my name is Haley. I'm a campus ambassador for Teach for America. I want to start with a number. This is 1.2 million students. This is actually the number of students who drop out of high school every year in the United States. That equals out to about 7,000 students a day, and more than half of these students are students of color. So this is a really important issue to me because growing up, both my parents worked in a local public high school. I'm a UCLA student like you all. I'm a senior studying public affairs. And here's my name and contact info right here too. Inequities in our educational system are hurting individual futures and our collective ones. So over 16 million children in the United States right now are growing up in poverty. And these kids are automatically put at a disadvantage with a schooling system that doesn't work for them and doesn't give them the opportunities that other students have. So for this reason, only 10% of them go on to graduate from college. Teach for America is working to change the systemic inequity of access by finding a broad and diverse coalition of leaders like yourselves who are hand-selected to strengthen schools in these communities and develop relationships with students and families. So these teachers lead in a school in a low-income community for at least 2 years after graduation, confronting educational inequity head-on, and they help to reimagine education within the schools they teach at, including making kids excited to come to school and learn. And ultimately, this strengthens student outcomes and school communities and gives them more opportunities to grow and succeed. So as a person studying at UCLA, you might value topics like social relationships and making an impact in the future. And Teach for America is a place to realize these boldest ambitions. I'm talking to you today because TFA has effectively launched undergraduates like you onto a path of social impact, certainly in education, but also in law, medicine, business, public health, politics, and beyond. So after your time in the Corps, your options are as broad as ever, including partnerships with grad schools, law schools, and career networking with 60,000 passionate alumni. How many of you have been asked by a family friend or an uncle or a cousin, what are you doing after college? I know I can't see your faces, but maybe a lot of you. I definitely have been asked that question. Don't we love that question? Just kidding. But the good news is that joining TFA means that you could tell them all the plans you have lined up after college, helping these kids and working to change the cycle of inequity. This competitive and selective program is for doers, change makers, and the next generation of leaders. So here are some resources to help you learn more and apply. Also up here is Ignite, which is a tutoring gig throughout the whole school year that students can work part-time. So that's something else that might be interesting. And then I have a QR code at the end that you could scan to learn more about this. Our next application deadline is October 21st, and there are a few more due dates on the way after that. So I'm a resource for any questions that you might have. Please feel free to reach out to me at that email, haleyglenn@ucla.edu if you're interested in learning more. And then I know it's hard to scan a QR code on a thing, on a computer screen. So I'll put the link in the chat as well, just so you have that as like the sign-in resource. And if you want to sign in to learn more, this will put you into that list. So that is all I have for today. And if there's any questions or anything, feel free to ask.
Yep, council members, if you have any questions, you can ask.
All right, great. Thank you. So, yeah, do you have a
Oh,
question?
yeah.
Hi, great presentation. Just wondering if there's anything, if you have any like stuff you would be interested in doing with USAC, like beyond like if there's any people who are interested, if you'd be interested in doing events together and that sort of thing to expose.
Yeah, we're definitely interested in doing events. We've done like events in the past that are like taking headshots for people so they could put on their LinkedIn profile and have a professional headshot, like events like that on campus just to get awareness of the organization out there. And then like also events, cross-promotional events with clubs. So I think that would be a great idea. So please feel free to reach out if you have any ideas or want to chat more about that.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. All right, moving forward, now we're going to be moving into the appointments section. All right, so the way appointments go, we do these like every other week. We're going to invite the individuals who are going up for an appointment. They're going to give their opening statement, and then the floor is going to be open for council members to ask them questions, which will be about 2 to 3 questions a person. And then the individual will be allowed to give their closing statement, and then council will discuss we'll hear ARC's recommendation, and then council will discuss amongst themselves if there's anything to discuss, and then we will do a final vote. All right, so the first appointment we have going up is Campus Programs Committee. I see a Madeline Michelle Hernandez Flores. Have they been promoted? All right, I see Madeline has been promoted. You are free to give your opening statement.
Hello, everyone. My name is Madeline Michelle Hernandez Flores, but everyone calls me Maddie. I also go by she, her pronouns, and I am interested in the Campus Programs Committee appointment because I believe it's the clubs and the programs that really impact student lives on campus. And I want to ensure that all students who want to create these clubs or programs have equal access to funding that is necessary for their program. And just so you guys know a little bit about me, I am a proud pansexual Latina, and being a first generation student, I wanted a space on campus where I was surrounded by other persons of color while still getting involved, which is why I joined the community programs office at the start of my freshman year, and I am now a management fellow who focuses on outreach, student retention, and community service. I also am a camp counselor for USAC's Uni Camp, where we help provide a week of camp for free or reduced price. I am also the vice president of Sigma Lambda Gamma National Sorority Incorporated, which is a Latina sorority on campus. And I'm also starting back up FITTED's community service project, Bruins Move In this year, which essentially provides free PE classes for elementary schools that can't afford those PE classes themselves.
Awesome. Thank you so much and welcome. All right, now we'll open the floor up for questions from council members. Eliana?
I just want to say thank you so much for coming out. Appreciate your great work. So what are some innovations you'd be interested in bringing to Campus Programs Committee, as well as some traditions which you would like to continue?
Yeah, something that I really wanted to focus on this year was accessibility and support for the programs that we will be funding through CPC. I want to start a workshop that kind of says like a how to start a club workshop that's open to everyone, because it's really hard to kind of like get things started at UCLA if you really don't have like a mentor and anyone to help you. These like workshops would imply like how to even get started, how to even like collect your mind around your ideas, and how to like kind of like put like a concrete plan, as well as how to even apply for the funding, get these signatories and all like the background paperwork stuff that no one really talks about. I want to be able to provide that for my programs, as well as what other resources there are on campus that could help them, not only through CPC, but through other mentors, other funding resources, and just kind of like places that they can go to get help. As well as to also promote accessibility. All these workshops will be online and in person, as well as all these slides will be available online for people to look up, like a simple Google, like how to start a club at UCLA. I want to make that happen, as well as I will make myself available for anyone who wants to make an appointment with me, and they're kind of like, oh, how do I even get started? How do I apply? Like, what do I do? Like, even just like the simplest questions, like there's no dumb question in my answer. So I want to make myself available for all students in that sense.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anna?
Hi, I was just wondering, how do you plan on promoting the funds that you do have to various student organizations that typically don't apply and like getting new applicants?
So the biggest thing would be to kind of like get myself out there, just posting online and having everyone else repost and like kind of like getting into the group meets and just like making as my like an outreach plan. As you know, there's a possible to go on Bruin Walk, just kind of like whistleblowing out there, as well as just online, and as well as making that accessibility easy through like a Google search, because that's typically where students like first go to look for answers.
Juan?
Hi, Madeline. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I first want to say that I really appreciate reading your application. It was very detailed, and it was also very vulnerable. You and very I saw your passion, and you shared your story and your narrative, and I really loved it, and I appreciate you for it. And I wanted to ask you, in all of these leadership positions and kind of like activities that you're involved for this year, one, how do you plan to balance all of these responsibilities along with potentially disappointment? And two, how have these leadership opportunities that you've had, how will they inform your work in the campus programs committee?
I'm so sorry, may you repeat the last part of your question? I couldn't hear that last part.
Yeah, for sure. How will here, I can take off my mask. How has your leadership experiences in these other orgs and leadership roles, how will these experiences help inform your work and your leadership style in the campus programs committee?
Yes. So something about me is that I really do enjoy staying busy. That's kind of like how I like to keep myself on track. Like with the free time, I get really overwhelmed and just like through like mental health. So something that I will be able to like balance this year is prioritizing my mental health, and making sure that's in order, as well as I'm also not afraid to ask for help and express like when I am struggling, and like that's something that I'm never afraid to admit when I'm wrong or like when I need assistance, because that's not how you grow. And like I really do believe that we are a team and that we're able to help each other, as well as providing my assistance for anyone else that needs help, as well as like these other commitments that I do have. I think it's good to be a part of like multiple things, that way that we promote accessibility and kind of like the spread awareness throughout, and like but little by little, like the stuff that I do here will reach out to more people out there, and like maybe like somebody else wants to start something, and like that by me being part of that, they would have never known that, beforehand. So that's how I'm gonna kind of like spread everything nice and thin, but also still keep it all together nice and whole.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was the last question. All right, Madeline, you are free to give your closing statement.
Yes. So thank you guys so much, everyone, for listening. I just wanted to say you guys how much I appreciate y'all. I would just like to everyone know that I'm really running for this position because I really was that student my freshman year who wanted to start something. I was very misinvolved in high school and like always like starting new clubs and I would do that. And I really wanted to do that at UCLA. But it was really intimidating having like a culture shock, imposter syndrome, and just like not really being a student of color, like not knowing how to navigate campus. I was just too intimidated to like do that myself. And it wasn't until like my fourth year when I actually realized how to do all that stuff. And it kind of sucked that none of those resources were available my freshman year, or it wasn't as accessible. So I really want to be that support. So as the campus programs committee appointment, I will be able to close the bridge between student organizations and us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Okay, now we're moving forward. First, let's hear ARC's recommendation.
Yeah, so ARC approved Madeline by a 3-0 vote.
Awesome, nice. Okay, and does council have anything they want to, any questions, comments, concerns they want to bring up regarding this appointment?
Honestly, I'm super impressed with everything I've heard, and it's awesome.
Okay, awesome. Anybody else? All right, if not, can we get a motion?
I move to approve Madeline for campus programs committee.
I second.
All right, Eliana motions, 1 second. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. All abstaining, please raise your hand. Sarah, you voted for the other one, right? Okay. And all against, please raise your hand. Okay, we had one person in vote, but okay. So by a vote of 12 to 0, the motion passes and Madeline is now part of the campus programs committee. Congratulations.
Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. Super excited to be part of the team.
No problem. Thank you. All right, next up, we have the elections board chair appointment. I see Anna has been promoted. You are free to give your opening statement.
Hi guys, it's nice to see all of you guys again. My name is Anna. She, her pronouns. I'm a 4th-year political science major. And I applied to be the elections board chair, mostly because I was vice chair last year, as some of you may remember me, and I just had a really great experience with the board. I felt like I learned a lot from the former chair Palmer, and I'd really like to continue the leadership that he showed to the board and also make some changes and put my own twist on the board. And so I'm really just excited to get into that role and fulfill the mission of elections board, which are free and fair USAC elections. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for having me, and I'd love to take any questions you guys have.
One.
Hi, Anna. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to pick your brain a little bit on your experience being vice chair last quarter. And with our cycle of election, it was a very interesting and unique election, to say the least. So I just wanted to know how your experience as vice chair prepared you for potentially any challenges or upcoming obstacles if you were to be appointed as chair.
Sure. I think the best thing about the vice chair position is that it lets me in the room when those important decisions are being made by the elections board, but it also kind of gives me an overview of all the directors and their committees and what they're doing. So I really have sort of a overview of like the entire functions of the board. So I think the way that played in to last year and what I learned coming out of last year's election was that diversity of opinions and input is really important. And that the more people you can have in the room making those decisions, the better. I think obviously when we are handling some sensitive information or materials, like we did last election. Of course, it makes sense to limit the amount of people that are looking at it, that are making decisions based on it. But at the same time, I think something I want to do differently is opening up our like general weekly meetings to all staff, not just myself, the vice chair, and directors, because I think that's going to promote initiative within our staffers if they'd like a director's position next year. But I think it's also just going to put everybody on the same page so that we're more oriented on free and fair elections and less on damage control or like scrambling to like address something. I think when we're all like coordinated, we're just going to have a better response if things might come up. So yeah, last year was a really great learning experience, and I was thankful that as vice chair I was able to be close to a lot of it. So
Sarah.
Hi, Anna. Here, let me try. Thank you so much for coming to talk to USAC. We appreciate you taking time out of your day. My question is sort of similar along the lines of Juan's question. I don't know if you have like it's a more of a tough question, so I'm sorry if it's a little bit of a curveball.
Oh, good.
But just so going back to what just the election cycle. Actually, I'm gonna give you a different question. So last year, the turnout for last year's election was, I think, around maybe 10%, maybe less. I may be getting the numbers wrong. But what are your plans to increase voter turnout in this coming election?
yeah, for sure. Thank you, Phoebe. 15.19%. Yeah, so I think probably one of the biggest reasons that we saw an unusually low voter turnout last election was that voters sort of became disillusioned with the election overall and like USAC itself because of what was being said on a lot of social media platforms, whether it was true or not. Obviously, that was kind of out of everyone's hands because of just how crazy rumors can get, but I think more tangible things I can do differently this year. I think first of all, with the candidates, I'd really like to just be upfront with the functions of the elections board, what makes a good campaign, what makes a good candidate, but also what the elections board isn't going to tolerate. And I think if we can stress that as early as possible, I think the election is going to be smoother. But something I wouldn't change also, what Palmer did last year is he really hit South Campus hard in terms of canvassing for voters. And I appreciate that because as a political science major, North Campus major, I'm not really down there a lot. So it was really cool to get to talk to people I'm not really in classes with. And I would do that again because what you see in trends is really that you have North Campus majors in USAC and you have North Campus majors voting, just because that's what the majors tend to. And so I would focus on USAC again, or on South Campus again. And I think I had a question in the chat. Should I answer that now or should we wait?
Can you there's people that got their hand raised, so we can do that one last.
Okay.
Phoebe?
Yeah, I had two questions. My first question is about just trying to recruit candidates. I know that a lot of the positions for the last election cycle were uncontested. And I wanted to know what your answer would be to trying to engage more students to run for USAC or like lowering the barriers to running, if you can like know any that exist and how you would plan on solving that. So that's the first question. The second question is, what would you consider as a mistake that the last elections board made that you would hope to improve in the next election cycle if elections board chair?
Sure. So for the first question, I think something I would do differently to recruit more candidates and sort of remove any barriers that may be there to running is probably more foresight and planning on the elections board part. I know that like when I got hired as vice chair, things like picked up really fast. And I think, I mean, I'm glad we're getting this process started now early in the fall, so that I'll have more time to get my team together, get staffers together. And I think that's going to translate into having a clearer timeline. And it's going to make deadlines easier for prospective candidates. It's going to give us more time with them to answer their questions, to make them more familiar with a campaign process, the election process, what it would look like to be in USAC. And I think that's just something I would do differently, is allowing us as much time with the candidates as possible by having that clear timeline and calendar set up. And the second question, sorry, what was it again?
Yeah, it was a mistake that the last elections board made that you hope to not make this year or improve upon.
Yeah, I mean, I already addressed like transparency in terms of like meetings and with candidates and stuff. So maybe something else I'd do differently. This kind of ties into transparency too, is being like upfront about our budget. I think a lot of times there were some questions raised last year about how we were spending our money and like what it was going to. And so I think something I do differently, and also this comes up with the foresight and planning the timeline as far ahead as possible, is I'd really just like to sit down with everybody and just run through the numbers. Of course, I'm going to do that with my finance chair first, just so I have a clear sense of what's going on. But yeah, that way people are like clear about what they can expect. You know, we know how much we can spend on like canvassing materials, on room reservations, on like candidate incentives to run. So yeah, I think that's probably something else I would do differently as well.
Eliana?
Hi, thank you so much. So I feel like a lot of what went down last year was kind of like not known, except for like the folks who were right in the middle of it, which is, I mean, I understand the privacy concern, but I feel like there's some stuff that might benefit from being aired out a bit more. So, what's your take on like transparency? Thanks, Theodore, in terms of I'm hoping to avoid future scandals. It seems to happen pretty often. So if stuff like that starts happening, then what's your approach to trying to get it out there to the general public so we have information to base our stuff on?
Yeah, for sure. So a couple things I think about last year is that in the first place, we were dealing with, like I said, sensitive material and information that like we as students and in our position could not verify was true or not. And when the situation sort of elevated beyond us as a student organization and started interacting with the professional staff that are like full-time UCLA departments, it was at that point that we were like, okay, like, not that it's out of our hands, like obviously we have the responsibility to carry out this election, but we're not really the right people anymore to say who's lying or who's telling the truth. So I think how that translates to future elections, this one coming up, is that it's, like I said, it's a good learning experience, especially for future candidates, because I'm sure they're going to have really similar questions to what you guys are asking me right now that are going to be like, what if someone does XYZ, like what happened last year? And I think those are important questions to ask. And with that experience we had last year, I think I have the answers finally. But yeah, transparency is just really important. And it is just comes down to being upfront with candidates, like I said before, about what's not going to be tolerated, what's specifically outlined in the code of conduct and in our elections board constitution. And yeah, that's just basically how it's going to play out.
Phoebe, I see you have another question. I see Alicia put one in the chat. Alicia, do you want to ask that question?
Yes, going back to you had responded to, I think, Sarah's question, stating like what things you will and won't tolerate this upcoming election, having had experience as vice chair last year. Can you talk about what specifically you will and won't tolerate? Thank you, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. I think what the board will and won't tolerate is outlined really well in our code. That's just going to be my baseline, is that if a candidate's actions align with something that we've, previously outlined as like not acceptable behavior, that's going to be grounds for consequences. What I will tolerate, obviously that's more so going to be on a case-by-case basis. As vice chair, I formed a really good relationship with our advisor, Chris. He was in a lot of the conversations that happened last year, and his insight was really important. And I think I would like to continue that relationship with him, learning from his insight. But I think overall, as a general theme, like I said before, like straight out the gate, I just want to be upfront with them and be like, we're not going to tolerate what happened last year, because what happened last year was out of control. And so I think as a general theme, we can see maybe, I don't want to say more heavy-handed with consequences, because, I don't want to like put myself in that situation as I'm saying that right now, but like, I don't think I will be as, not to say that Palmer was permissive with how he handled what happened, but I think I am just going to act faster. That won't be, though, sacrificing the contemplation that I'm going to have with my fellow board members. I can say right now that anything I will and won't tolerate will be deliberated by multiple people, not just me. And so there's, like I said before, a diversity of opinions that's going to be coming in. And I mean, right now, and I definitely can say in the future, I'm not going to feel comfortable signing my name on anything that I feel is weak, is not thought through, or is on shaky standing. So I'd really like to prevent those situations in this election. And I think just coming straight out the gate up front with that impression is going to make a difference.
So Phoebe?
I plugged my questions in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so for the first question,
I'm sorry,
obviously,
can we read the question out, because there's gonna be some individuals who watch this.
Okay, cool. The first question is, what type of relationship do you hope to hold with all of the candidates? And I'm emphasizing all of the candidates because I think there's like a tendency for like, in the name of like an incident, it typically only happens between a couple candidates, but obviously all candidates being affected by this during the USAC election cycle. So that's my first question, just the types of relationships you hope to hold with candidates to support them through elections when it's super stressful. And then the second question is just like, elections are really stressful. I am curious what motivates you to be like elections board chair again, or like, in elections board again.
Yeah, So first question, obviously, first of all, I would like to have an objective relationship with all candidates. I already know you guys, if some of you guys are running again, so we already have that relationship, but yeah, and I think something that comes with that is just being a source of knowledge for all candidates. I really liked talking to you guys that came up with specific questions. I mean, a few of you guys, I was just like walking the class on Bruin Walk and you snagged me and you're like, oh, is the deadline for this or this? I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm so happy I get to answer your question right now. I'm so glad you're on top of it. So I'm looking forward to forming those individual relationships with the candidates, but obviously, like you mentioned, when incidents happened, you know, I'm going to be impartial because that's really the job of the chair, is just having like an objective sort of perspective on everything. The second question, I mean, I want to be chair, I guess, because even with everything that happened, I still want the position because I enjoyed my time with my team. And I'm really thankful that most of them have said they'd like to come back. So I already know I've got solid relationships with all of them, and I already know that we can work well together. And yeah, I just really like to sort of move on in the board. And obviously political science major, like I have a natural inclination to like voting and stuff, so it's only natural. And then Theodore's question in the chat, what events actually transpired? I believe a bit more transparency can help. Follow-up question to that, are you asking about the events that occurred last year, last election?
Teddy can't, I'm pretty sure he's typing right now, but apparently he can't talk, so.
Okay.
Let's see if he's gonna type what he means, I guess.
No worries. It's all good.
Teddy, you got a question, or you wanna?
Oh yeah, so I was just clarifying when you asked what events actually transpired, I was just hoping for some clarification on what you were referring to, if you were asking about last year or something else. Okay, yeah, so in the chat, he says he's wondering too, everyone says that things happen, but he doesn't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think first of all, maybe if this is the correct forum to rehash all of that, because you know, I see you guys in your positions now, and I definitely am not going to question the legitimacy of the election or the legitimacy of your offices. I can say though that things happened, like you said, and that was a whole learning experience, and I'm looking forward to building off of it. But yeah, I don't think I'm the best person to say what actually happened.
Yeah, you can go Google some stuff.
Yeah.
Juan?
Yeah, Teddy, we can have a conversation offline. But yeah, no, I think, well, we've been very thorough with our questioning, and I would not want to hold Anna for any longer. So I just want to make sure that we're conscious of her time as well.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we did thorough question. This is definitely a hard position. And I think Anna's did a pretty great job of like answering the questions. It's probably the most we've ever grilled a candidate. So thank you so much for kind of bearing with us and, you know, having your great answers. And with that, you're free to give your closing statement.
Yeah. I just start off with thank you guys so much for having me again. I'm looking forward to working with you guys. I'm looking forward to building off the relationships we already have. And I'm also looking forward to having another free and fair USAC election. Like I said, I already know I'm going to have a solid team with me. So I think we're just going to execute our mission really well. And yeah, I think we're in a really good place. So thank you guys for your time and your thorough questions as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming, Anna. Okay, moving forward, can we hear ARC's recommendation?
Yeah, so ARC approved Anna with a 3-0 vote.
Awesome. Okay. Are there any questions, concerns, or comments council wants to discuss amongst themselves regarding this appointment? Daniela?
Yeah, this is just more so like food for thought in regards to Alicia's follow-up question about like tolerance for this upcoming election. I think that it would just be useful for us to think about just generally for the election sports moving forward, how we can implement more preventative things in order to not tolerate certain incidents that may arise, because I feel like, and obviously like Anna, I recognize that your response is utilizing the tools that are available to you within the code of conduct, but I think that we should just gear more towards like thinking about more tangible preventative measures to ensure that like candidates right off the bat understand what will not be tolerated, and so that elections board on their part are holding themselves to ensuring that that's a guarantee for all candidates and also for the entire student body. So really appreciate again like your response. I know that we asked you a lot of questions, but I think that's just something that I would be particularly interested in seeing for the future.
Naomi?
Hey. Okay, so yeah, my question, well, more of like, yeah, it's more of a general question for like everybody in the room. But I know Anna mentioned like during her interview with ARC that she was a staffer for Carl's office. I just was wondering like the rules on if like people serving in, okay, oh my God. So people serving in these roles, are they allowed? I know it's kind of like hard to be like kind of impartial and form these relationships if like they're, yeah, so like that's allowed and everything.
No. So basically what happened, I'm sorry I didn't clarify in my ARC interview, was that I didn't even wait to see if that would be allowed. The day that Palmer hired me as vice chair, I emailed Carl and Max Orr and I'm like, I'm stepping away because I'm doing this. So there was not 1 second where we were overlapping. And I just mentioned that I know Carl from Gen Rep 3. So that was my first USAC experience. But yeah, thank you for that question. I honestly hadn't even thought to address that. So thank you for that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I remember that. I was pretty hurt by that. I was like, dang, she's leaving. All right. Does anyone have anything else they want to bring up? All right, if not,
Can I say something, Carl, real quick?
Yeah, you go ahead.
I just wanted to say just to thank Anna for coming out tonight. I know we threw some pretty tough questions at you. Me and the council members were just trying to be thorough based on what happened last year. But we appreciate your dedication to the election board, to the position, and ensuring fair elections for the upcoming year.
Awesome. All right. That is the final, I guess, little powwow. Can we get a motion?
I move to approve Anna Bullis for the elections board commissioner.
Can we get a second?
I second, Divine.
Sarah motions, Divine seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, all abstaining, please raise your hand. Okay, so I'm counting 13. Okay. And all against, please raise your hand. Okay, I think that's by a vote of 10 to 3 to 0. The motion passes, and Anna is now our new elections board chair. Congratulations.
Thank you guys. I guess I'll be talking with you guys a lot, and I can't wait to see you all again.
Awesome, thank you. Looking forward to seeing you, do your thing this year as well.
Yeah, thanks for all your hard work. Thanks for coming out here.
Yeah. All right, moving forward. Well, the next appointment is a consent item. For the John Wooden Center Board of Governors. So we have Benjamin Blevins up for that. If there's no questions, concerns, or comments, the motion is, he's approved for the position. Going once, going twice. All right, awesome. Moving forward. All right, so straight into officer report. Sorry. All right, yeah, so this week, actually today, I had a meeting with the Chief Justice of the Judicial Board. He didn't know that we had made a judicial board appointment, so he hasn't actually met with Adam Thaw. So I let him know that we had made a judicial board appointment, and we are still missing 4 appointments for the judicial board. So I'll be working on that this week. I do have 2 individuals that will be applying, like either tonight or tomorrow. So we'll work with ARC to make sure that they get interviewed so that they're prepared to come to council next Tuesday. We had the meeting, me and a couple other council members had a meeting regarding discussion of an ASUCLA BOD appointment, which we'll be talking a little bit more about in executive session under new business. I had a cabinet meeting, basically just kind of went over some of our plans, and we talked about general staff applications. We got approximately 53 applications. So we'll be going through all those, doing all those interviews and hiring the right individuals. And I am still looking for at least 3 members for the student conduct committee. They're not stipended positions, but these individuals do very important work. They basically like decide the fate of individuals. So yeah, there's that. All right, IVP.
Okay, so we can start with ARC first. So we interviewed a few appointees this week, not as much, because we do have our whole academic senate, or not whole. There's still one more, I think, position left to interview, but most of our academic senate is full, so we didn't have too many interviews for ARC, but we will be interviewing more students for like the next week. So you will be seeing more people for appointments next week. And also, I think Juan sent us all an email, but we still need more applicants, a lot more applicants for appointments, especially because more appointments were added. So please advertise that to students. There was also a slight issue with the appointment system. So if you heard of students who applied but have not heard back from like ARC or anyone else, please let me know, because I think that there is a link that's circulating that's still open, that shouldn't be open. So yeah, just let me know. And then within the office, we held our IDP retreat this Saturday, which was really fun for directors to kind of get to know each other. We are getting involved with the ASUCLA t-shirt contest that we do yearly. So my student involvement directors are working with ASUCLA right now to see how we can get involved. Our transparency and accessibility committee are working on graphics for transparency within the office, and they're actually in this meeting right now. They're watching to summarize like any key points for the student body, which is very exciting. Shout out to my director in the panelists right now. And then my education accessibility committee is working on educational posts and reminders for deadlines for enrollment. And lastly, our internship application deadline was extended to October 14th. So if you know anyone who wants to apply to the IVP office, please encourage them to apply. But that should be all. Yes. Oh, and then I'll pass it off to EVP.
Hi, folks. Also, I have a quick question, Carl, about your thing. Can I do that? Is that allowed? Your like update.
Oh yeah, what do you got a question about?
I just wanted to know really quickly, like who determines like the stipending for appointed positions, specifically in regards to the conduct ones that are open? I feel like because it's so heavy, it should be stipended, but I just wanted to know like how that even like.
Yeah, I'm not sure who determined this, like what positions get stipended or not. I will say that I did talk with the dean of students today at the breakfast that we had with the chancellor this morning, and because I told her the same thing, I was like, hey, I think that they should definitely get paid. But she also said that she she doesn't know why those individuals, like it's not a stipend appointment, but she stated that it's something that she would like talk to Vice Chancellor Gordon about. And she also stated that the only thing that she could potentially see is the aspect of like there being like a conflict of interest, right? Like, oh, like student affairs is paying students to make decisions, or certain stuff like that. So that's what she said, that I guess the perception could be. Orlando, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. Yeah, it really is a case-by-case basis. Some of these appointments are new and they come from offices that don't necessarily have a budget yet. So it could also mean that some of these new positions in the departments, especially during the pandemic, they lost funding, or they wanted to create a position before they had funding. So it really is like on a case-by-case with the conduct. That is just a position, as Carl was saying, that's more of a Vice Chancellor Monroe looking for internal funds for that. But yeah, I think those are important questions to ask. And I agree. I do think that these positions should be considered for stipends. But as I said, it just depends on which office is in charge of it.
All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, Juan, sorry, I didn't mean to start a whole thing, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up about that. Our financial guidelines outline how much each position gets paid, each appointment. I know that there's specific guidelines there too for like for example, I remember seeing the CS mini fund chairperson and committee members and how much they can be paid weekly for their appointment. So I don't know if that like warrants a like change to our USAC budget that we approved at the way beginning. But that's, I guess, a conversation to have with Archie and Jessica to rework. So yeah, just wanted to bring that up.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, I was just curious. Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe we can continue having that conversation. But in terms of my updates, we had our weekly staff meeting where Teachers for America came and also gave a similar presentation, as well as we had a CARE rep come and speak as well. We also had a meeting with Ignite to discuss a action item that they're focusing on for this year that I'm sure you guys will be hearing from about very, very soon. And that we're also helping them with. We stayed up late last night, my team, to work on a resolution that we will be presenting to you all very soon. And I mentioned briefly in today's breakfast with a few of you guys in terms of a call to action and a request of removal of some council members within LA that decided to make outrageously disrespectful and ignorant and harmful comments and were exposed. And so my team was making a letter and graphics for that. Local team is working with SWC for an event taking place next week on the 20th. Burnsville is working hard on posting graphics related to voter registration and collabing with at UCLA social media. And so those graphics are going to look really cool and all of the TikToks and whatever social media stuff. And then lastly, For fall, we are hiring again, our second and probably last wave of hiring. So if you know of anyone that's interested in student advocacy / EVP office, the applications are open for another week. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Gen Rep 1. Is Keon here? Keon is not here. Okay. Gen Rep 3.
Thank you so much. So yeah, I've been working on some more stuff, working with lovely folks at Associate Students UCLA a bit more on foster youth employment, and also reached out to dining on the subject. Thank you, Geronimo Thomas and Demontia Thompson for your great work on that. Also working on getting some stuff set up with the UC Students Association, some more advocacy work with them, and working with my staff. So been a great week and appreciate everyone's support as always.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Community Service Commissioner.
Hi, y'all. So I have, you laughing. You threw me off, Noe. Thanks. So I actually have 2 requests for y'all to help me with marketing. Naomi. Sorry. So the first request that I have y'all is to help me spread awareness for a CSC event that's coming up this Friday. It's called Servocacy Fest, where we're spotlighting different projects or student orgs that fall under the umbrella of the Community Service Commission that are doing amazing work regarding specific issues out in the community. We're going to have tables set up, and it's going to be on Bruin Plaza, which is like in front of the student store right next to the like Bruin Bear. And we're going to have little prizes for students that participate. It's going to be amazing. I'm so proud of my directors who have like put this on, and all of the projects that are participating and going to have a booth there. So please stop by. Please also stop by this Friday from 12 to 2, I believe. But also repost, share this out as far and wide as possible, so we can get a huge turnout. I mean, there's going to be an actual big turnout because it's in a busy area, but we want even more. We want exposure for our USAC entities. The next request that I have for y'all is also regarding marketing support. As you all saw last night, I sent out an email regarding USAC appointments. So please feel free to use that as kind of like the primary document to reference students that are interested in USAC appointments. That has the current list of open seats in different committees, and also has just a quick little overview of instructions on how to apply. It's super easy, digestible. It kind of is like the one-stop shop of all of our appointments. So yeah, please share that out if you can to all of your courses, group me's, share it out to all of your other orgs that you might belong to, Slack, group me's, whatnot. Share it as far and wide as possible so we can get through all of these appointments ASAP. And then just other quick little mentions. Our commission is starting to slowly pick back up our programming for the entire year, for the fall quarter. And our first office hours is tomorrow from 7:30 to 8 p.m. Virtually. You can find the link to our office hours on our CSC Instagram at UCLA Instagram. Please come say hi. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Next up, we have Financial Supports Commissioner.
Yes, hi. Sarah had to step out for a minute, but I'm Nate McGarry. I'm her Director of Campus Affordability. So I'll just give the update. This morning, she attended a meeting with the Chancellor, the breakfast that I think some of you were also at. And tomorrow we have our first board meeting for the Financial Supports Commission. We're also setting up some meetings with admin to pursue one of our goals for this year, which is getting a New York Times subscription for students. And that's about it. If anyone has any questions, just let me know.
Thank you. Transfer student representative. All right, so I'm just reading this for the live purposes. So the transfer student rep Theodore says, hello everyone, I hope all are well. I am trying to find new ways of familiarizing transfer students with the Ash Center and all of its services. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. The Transfer Center is still pushing a transfer scholarship campaign, pushing to raise about $10,000. I have been meeting with some fellow students regarding staff positions. Awesome. And going straight into administrative admin reps. So, well, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, okay. I see. International student rep did a written report. Yeah, so going straight into admin reports, Orlando.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well tonight. Just a couple of updates. The first one is starting tomorrow is Soul's Days of Soul. It's 2 days of in-person and virtual workshops intended for new organizations and returning groups. New organizations will be have the opportunity to attend what is known as new organizational workshops that discuss everything surrounding their organization, such as funding resources, venue resources, what it means to be a signatory, discussing university policy, etc. There are also going to be some great workshops for returning organizations as well. Funding workshops, graduate student association workshops. So if you're interested or if you belong to a new organization, you should check it out. I'm putting it in the chat, a link to the, I'm sorry, to the event. Please attend if you can. And then just as a follow-up, registration for new groups and old groups ended last week. This year, the Soul office has implemented a new registration policy, which means that every group that registers with Soul must attend one workshop. One signatory must attend one workshop, and the workshops that we have this week through the Days of Soul will qualify, as well as a series of workshops that Soul will be offering. I will drop that in the chat as well. But just as a reminder, if you are a group and you're a signatory, please remember to fulfill this new obligation. If you have any questions, just reach out. That's all I have.
Jessica.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I missed you all this morning. Hope you had a great breakfast with the Chancellor event. Just a quick reminder for anybody receiving mail or packages, because we've been getting a lot of mail that we're having trouble sorting in SGS. Just make sure if you're ordering something for your office that you include your office number in your address line. So, you know, I can type it in the chat as well, but the address for Kirchhoff is 308 Westwood Plaza. And then you would put Kirchhoff Hall and then your office number. So, you know, Kirchhoff Hall 308 if you're SWC, or whatever your office number is, just make sure it's included there so that if we don't recognize the name on the package, we at least have an office number that we can direct it to, because we have been getting a lot of mail that we just unfortunately, like, we can't track down who it belongs to, and we're having this return to sender, which, you know, if it's something important that you all need for your offices or other student organizations, we want to make sure we get it to you in a timely manner and not have to send it back. So yeah, just wanted to give that update. And then Sydney's been working on collecting some more information from you all. So I just wanted to take a moment. I don't know if she still had outstanding information she needed from anybody. So if it's okay if I pass it to Sydney really quick. I see she typed in the chat 1 second. So while we wait for her to hop on, I know she was working on collecting some contact info and things like that for our office. So if you all can please respond to her if she's missing information from you, that will be really helpful as we work on getting some things updated for SGS this quarter. And then Archie's not on right now. He said he would be joining the meeting a little late, so we can skip him for his officer report.
All right, so are we still waiting on Sydney or?
We can come back if she's not ready. You can go ahead and go to Lori.
Okay, Lori.
Hi guys, it was so nice to see people in 3D, not on a screen. Chat with some of you. You're like real people to me now. I hope I'm real to you. Juan, I don't think I'm on. If you sent that email about appointments to the listserv, I don't think I'm on that yet, but I also advise the SLEET committee and recreation, which is Student Leadership Employment Advisory Committee. And I'm happy to pass that on to them to get out to our 600 student employees. I'm sure someone at least will be interested. So my email's in the chat now. If you want to just forward that to me, I'd be happy to get that out for you. And that's it.
Thank you. Sydney, are you ready?
I think Sydney's gonna go ahead and type in the chat for you all because she's having some Wi-Fi connection issues, so I don't think she's able to unmute.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, moving forward, so we don't have any old business, so we do have new business. And for the new business, we will be going into executive session, which we need a motion and a second to do that. Jessica, do you have a question?
Well, yeah, not so much a question, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody was clear on the process for executive session, and just also make sure that I point out a few things about executive session. So when you do enter executive session, there's no live streaming, there's no minutes recorded for that meeting of council. So which is why you have to take a formal motion to enter into executive session. And then when you come out of executive session, you'll go back on the record to say, you know, whether or not there was any action taken within that executive session. But so I just want to make sure we're prepared that once we enter, we will need to turn off the live stream. And then for Sydney, just as a reminder, we don't take minutes during that portion. So the only thing that will be in the minutes is the vote and motion to enter executive session, and then anything after you come out of executive session. So to exit executive session, Carl, you can just, you know, say that, you know, you're adjourning executive session at whatever time. And then from then on, the minutes are going to continue from that point. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear for everybody.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm curious now. I think we only have like one attendee. Does the one attendee get to come to executive session, or how does that work?
No, so usually executive session is reserved for only USAC administrative advisors, and if it was for a personnel issue where you're meeting with that particular person, then that person would be included. But general public would not be in the room for executive session, nor would media.
Okay, awesome. All right. So we'll just figure out, I guess, the logistics of everything. Now, Milan, you kind of heard that, right? So
Yeah.
when we go into executive session, anyone who's not council has to be kicked, and
Okay,
well,
sounds
admin
good.
gets to
So we
stay.
can-
Yeah, and then we'll stop the recording.
Okay, so we can motion and then I'll stop the YouTube and then and then also stop the webinar.
Exactly.
That's good.
All right, so can we get a motion?
Yeah, move to start an executive session.
What?
Can we get a
I
second?
move to start an executive session.
Okay, Eliana motion, Sarah seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, by a vote of 13 to 0 to 0, the motion